Thai, you family. And come on in to another Dr. Mumbi spiritual show. Although this could also be an Ask Dr. Mumbi. Don't forget, if you have any questions, just email us, drmumbi at drmumbishow.com, and we usually pick the most popular ones. But I wanted to talk today about Africa and some truth that maybe we don't really share or people on the motherland don't share. And this has actually been kind of triggered by a conversation I saw online. Firstly, with is it Mark Meets Africa? Definitely check out his channel. He's a young man who moved back. Probably moved back to the motherland, moved to Tanzania, and just, he was talking about just the realities of how most, sadly, in most situations that you find yourself when you come to Africa, people are trying to con you, people are trying to steal from you. It's just such a negative vibe. And, there's also been a significant wave of our African American brothers and sisters who came to the motherland and just couldn't find their flow and had to return. And one of the things they were super shocked at is how, backward the mentality of our people was. And I also watched Go Black to Africa and Mark Meets Africa have a conversation about how now Dubai has banned, I think, 20 African nations or something like that from traveling. I don't know what the whole story is, family. I'm in the new earth, but I thought this is important for us to speak about and to recognize because, those of power can kind of, overstand, and understand why you may be where you are across the motherland, what your purpose is. Maybe this will just be a confirmation of that because Africa is not okay, family. Africa is not okay. And you see, for a long time, we think that, or Babylon wants us to think that Africa is the land and the ocean and this paradise, which it is. Africa is equated to being on the one side a dark continent, and on another side, where nothing good happens, and on another side, the breadbasket of the world, the gemstone basket of the world, where all these things are being taken from here. Every iPhone or every phone out there, not even just iPhone, computer, everything related to AI needs a certain precious metal that is only found in Congo, and you wonder why. Congo is always at war. Somalia has one of the greatest deposits of uranium, and you wonder why Somalia is always at war. Nigeria, major oil producing nation, and then you never question why Boko Haram is there. So on the one side, that's the story we're being told, and on the other side, foreigners are just coming in and taking our rubies, taking our diamonds, taking our gold, partnering with our very own. Let's not try and, let them get off the hook. But that's not Africa. Africa is its people. And what's happening physically to the land we live on, what's happening to our children, it's the people first. And everything that we see happening in our environment is a reflection of where the people are at. Our growth was stopped, family. Our natural evolution was not only cut off, but we fell in consciousness. From gods to people who could barely even clothe themselves, who didn't even know who they were. Teachers, preachers, prophets, healers were killed generation after generation. Anyone who had that mark was taken out. And the group consciousness of our people was turned against us. And so the thing that shocks so many when they come to the motherland for the first time is how deep the brainwashing still is here. How deep the religious psychosis still is here. Because Africa is not the continent. Africa is its people. And we're unable to defend ourselves. We're unable to defend the motherland, literally, because we can't even defend ourselves. Because the problem is here, family. And here It's a spiritual problem that can only have that only has a spiritual solution, that requires the assistance of the ancestors, who many have been brainwashed to reject, to term as demons, to term as wicked ones. Anyone who talks about talking to our ancestors is wicked and evil and it's just such a low-level mentality. And so for those of us who are awakened and find ourselves here, it is because we're anchoring in our spiritual rescue. We're anchoring in and welcoming back our ancestors, welcoming back our ancient ones, who are the only ones who can take us out of this situation and bring us into a new dawn just like that. We're literally just here to raise up the vibration to a certain level where we can now totally change in a twinkle of an eye our group consciousness, because it's the consciousness of our people that is sick. The group consciousness is under a deep mental illness. And that mental illness is reflected in our self-hate, in our hate for one another, in our self-anxiety, in our self-doubt, in our self-loathing, that we can't even support each other. It's even hard for some people to support themselves. Some people are their own worst enemies, always saying they can't do this, they can't do that, they don't have the power to do this, they don't have this, to that, do that. They're just always speaking against themselves, speaking death and hatred and all against themselves. So it's easy for Babylon to just weaken you further and eat it. They don't even need to do much in such a situation. And until the people are okay, until the consciousness of the people is addressed, and it's everyone's global concern who looks like I. It's everyone's concern, because the majority of our group consciousness is here. That's where the majority of our people are. 2-3 billion family. They'll try to tell you we're still in the 1.4 billion. There's so many lies that have been told. It's crazy that we believe all of them. But it's centered here, which is why we call this the motherland. Our people are centered here. They were across the world. They still are across the world. But until we deal with the group consciousness, until we erase that slave mentality in our people, get them to recognize the great white lie, and get them to reconnect to their ancestors, and then the ancestors will take it over from them. Until we do that, family, our people globally will remain enslaved and entrapped. Our group consciousness. There's always a few of us who are totally free. But many of those choose to enter other realms and other realities. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. They choose to disconnect from this group consciousness, but we have come here as chosen ones, as mental saviors, where we're going to dive into that muck, dive into that pit, and hold the energy of truth. Stand with our ancestors and allow our ancestors to connect with other ancestors and to hold hand with other ancestors who will go deep. They will use us to awaken their family that is asleep here. Because this is the time. Now is the time, family, for us to take a quantum leap consciously, to return and yet, quantum leap forward at the same time. And for us who say we're chosen ones, it's not a title and a label that we should really be just celebrating, because it's not easy. It means an incredible amount of sacrifice. Knowing that you're a God and living in a God energy, and yet having to be amongst men and not be contaminated by the self-loathing, by the hatred, by the, And the thing is, when you reach that God status, you're telepathic, you're totally open, which means you can feel the thoughts of others, you can feel the energy of others. You interact with the soul of the world, you interact with the global vibrations, you interact with the different group conscious vibrations of nations, of communities, of people. So it's like you're totally turned on in the pit of hell, which means you hear people's screams, you hear people's loneliness, you feel people's anguish and pain and confusion. Because poverty is very real in people's lives. And you can't go and tell these people that poverty is a state of mind. It's a lack mentality that's been created for you. First, you have to feed the people. And then you can have these conversations. We literally have to become the missionaries of that conquered us, but not with their jargon. But we have to study. How were they able to go across the continent? It didn't take the few years that they tell you. It didn't take the 50, 60 years. It's been going on for thousands of years. But if we use their model of how they went to communities and they provided solutions for those communities before they preached the good news, we're the ones with the real good news now. But they've put us in this, in that world. Our group consciousness dictates that we are among the poorest, we're this, we're that. So even generating those funds and that wealth is not easy, and then it's controlled by them. So you've seen how they're able, anyone who goes against them or tries to support their people is immediately cancelled. But it's not about that family. It's not about what they're doing. Because we have to recognize as chosen ones that Africa is not okay because it's the consciousness of the people. The people have been brought to the level where they can't even feed themselves, which means if they can't feed themselves physically, they even lack the ability to feed themselves spiritually, which is what they need right now. They need spiritual food without even knowing it, but you have to provide the physical food so that they'll even be in a position where the monkey mind keeps quiet, so that the higher mind can come through and do the necessary healing, the necessary restoration, the necessary transformation. And so for all of you who have been sent in as Africa's spiritual rescue, and some of you were born in the motherland, some of you were born across the world, but you felt this longing and this deep desire to be part of Africa's liberation, and Africa's liberation is the world's liberation. Our job is to awaken the sleeping giant who doesn't even know they're a giant. So you have to first approach people on their level of understanding, overstanding and innerstanding, which means help them to meet their physical needs. Not in a way where you make them your slave, because that all those things have been done to make people slaves, and not to entrap them in any kind of soul contract with yourself, but to work with them, to provide them with, solutions to their material problems. Teaching a man to fish instead of giving him fish kind of scenario. You may need to provide fish for a little while, but teaching a man to fish. And then give him what he actually requires, which is that spiritual food. And that is our role. Our role is to anchor in the energy, anchor in this heaven on earth, hold it in by creating your own little heaven on earth, your own little paradise. So that already starts to shift the atmosphere of your region, of your nation, and of the continent. And then as you are led, and start, because here in Africa we all have staff, we all have house managers, we all have, you have people around you that you've employed. Start with them. Start with transforming those around you, your community, their lives. Or maybe you've moved off grid to a village somewhere. Start to provide that consciousness to the families around you. Provide them with their immediate solutions in a way that doesn't tie them to you. And then give them that necessary spiritual food. Because until we address the consciousness and we make healing the consciousness our priority, then we're going nowhere. Fast and in a hurry. There's several keys I've given in this show of how we liberate Africa. None of them has to do with coming up with a political movement. None of them has to do with coming up with some, resolution that we're going to, or memorandum that we're going to submit to the African Union or to the United Nations. None of it has to do with that, because those are not the solutions. Those are material solutions to a program that is already, a system that is already rigged against us. They've already predicted those things coming, but what they can't see is the spiritual solutions. And the spiritual solutions, which means we need a continental news channel that will speak into the minds of our people and change them through educational content, through, the real story instead of his story, and all these things through a different programming. And giving, our teachers and our preachers, our ancient ones, platforms to share the messages that they are here to share at such a time as this. And now today I've provided a second solution to, if we want to liberate Africa, as we say, we need to go into the communities that we're in. Maybe we come together through the Unity communities or other platforms. Go into the community and don't feel like you're better than them, but come in as a partner. Share, help them to provide relief for their spirit, for their immediate physical problems, and then give them that spiritual food. Because we have to spread this good news that our ancient ones are back, that our ancestors are back. And I guess the third one, which I've been talking about, I haven't done a specific show, is the Unity communities. Maybe I'll do a separate show on why I started it, where we need to come together as communities that have awakened or are awakening, and kind of be together and keep a high vibration, help each other to maintain a high vibration. And as we do that, we change the vibration of the cities, the nations, and eventually Mama Africa. So all these things that need to happen together, and there's many other solutions that will help, but they're not physical solutions. If you have any other spiritual solutions, please share in the comments below. Until next time, tuko pamoja.